We are back, not in the city beneath, not with those delving little perverts going down into all sorts of holes under the heart, towards the heart.
The perverts are still here.
The perverts are still here.
Holes are not.
But no delve to be found. Only half of the perverts are here.
That's true.
So we thought we'd do a little RPG discussion, talking about our favourite hobby. Oh yes. And what we thought about discussing today is something called the 6 cultures of play. And this was a blog that was written some time ago, which describes the 6 different sort of segments of role-playing culture from its inception to present day. And they kind of interchange a lot, and you'll probably heard of some of them, and some that probably you may not have heard of. But ever since I read it, and ever since a lot of people have read it, you can't really unsee these kind of categories of role-playing games, cultures, or whatever. I think some games fit into some cultures or are a mix of some. Players have preferences over some and not others. I know what I prefer, and I would very much like to know what you think. And I have my suspicions.
Can you please write down on paper your suspicions for us both, for us to review later?
Oh, you want me to do a sealed bid?
I do. And I do this really as a supporter, hoping to prove you right, because I'm fairly confident that you will get them right. But
all right, I have paper. It's blank. So, Milo.
Oh, that's me.
Should I say your least favourite and favourite?
Oh yeah, that can work. Yeah.
Yeah. So, favourite, and then least favourite. Let's say. Yeah. Okay. And then Michael. Favourite. Least favourite.
I think I found the thing to which we're referring by just typing the 6 things of RPG, and it found it.
This is spoilers, Michael Pikel.
Oh, sorry, I thought we were supposed to know all these. Are we getting briefed on them, are we?
Well, it also helps if you want to read it. Especially for Michael Pikel.
I don't think we're expected to know everything about them just yet.
Well, I panicked for a moment. I thought we were, so I got a better clue.
Yes, please.
This is like the sort of
hand in your written essays
of someone who is so used to having not done their homework.
Yeah.
Just assumed.
I hear you.
Well, I thought I was in the middle of like a nightmare of exactly, yes. Now please hand in. This will decide whether you go to university or not. Jesus.
Definitely had that. Right.
Many times.
So we start at the dawn of time. The game that was played by the T-Rex himself with his tiny hands. So the first category is called classic. The classic play. And this is typified by the very first edition of Dungeons and Dragons, otherwise known as AD&D, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Now this is typified by the fact that it was very much a game where it was all about a horrible DM trying to kill their players with the most bullshit monsters, traps, and all sorts. This is where the 12-foot pole came from. This is where you'd have tournaments where people would play the same dungeon and try and compete to see how far they would get and how far they could survive. It's where all the traps came from, all the stupid monsters that you couldn't understand.
And 10-foot poles.
That was our weekly session, to be honest.
And you would regularly have 4 hit points for a very long time. and it was very maths heavy. And yeah, I mean, you can kind of see, this is jumping ahead a little bit, but you can see how with the new OSR movement, they've tried to recapture that, albeit in a more modern sensibility. So how do we feel about that kind of play? Well, I tell you my thoughts. It sounds horrible. I never want to play it. But what I think they did get right was that they tied XP to gold, treasure. So the objective of the game is to get treasure, and you get rewarded for getting the treasure. Mm-hmm. Good game design. And I think there's something to be said of that dungeon crawling in its purest form.
Adventurers going out to get rich, make a living.
Yeah.
And maybe they have to slaughter some innocents on the way. But there's something
pass away, like how, like is that only weird because it's a game we would play and not a video game? Like, is that actually just a video game? But even that sounds, I mean, it's kind of like, a Souls game, punishing and just kind of very kind of by the numbers. Is there something more satisfying in a video game version of that because it's, I guess, you feel in control of it, and maybe would, for me, no, it sounds awful. It sounds like an awful time, but I guess maybe again in its prototypical state, that was the way to do it. It doesn't sound like there was much room for creativity or storytelling or development, which is kind of problematic.
And I guess
surely why you're doing it with people to do that. So it seems odd to.
It's funny though, isn't it? Kind of like retrofitting these ideas, but it doesn't do that. Yeah, and it didn't. But it's weird now that it doesn't. I also, point, I can't explain why, but I really rubbed up the wrong way applying like modern gaming design terminology, like, oh, it's a bit like a Souls-like to old RPGs. I can't tell you why I hate it, but it really grates the idea of us being like, oh, well, I suppose it's a bit like Souls-likes, isn't it? No, but yes, I guess.
I was just trying to equate the experience. I think, yeah,
yeah, you know what I mean. I just, I'm not saying you're wrong either. Just like,
this feels like Mario X Rabbids.
Yeah, XCOM's a Mario X Rabbids like. That's what I've always said.
Yeah, this Risk game, it's really just sort of like a simplified sort of Civ experience. Yeah.
That's kind of it, though, isn't it? It's like that. You might for that. I'm like, why didn't you play a board game? Which I guess it kind of was at the time. Well, why didn't you play a board?
This is the thing, because D&D came from war games, which used to have game masters who would adjudicate. And AD&D was the first game that was sort of, well, there was a game before that, but this was the first mainstream game that did away with the battlefield with little toy soldiers and was like, you are one person and you are trying to do this thing, and it's all pen and paper. And yeah, it is more like a game. It's very much a game, and the story didn't really enter into it, apart from, what does your barbarian look like?
He's obviously called Grog the Terrible, and he fulfills like every archetype, stereotype, probably, because that's kind of 70s, 80s fantasy. It's a bit like I too am horrified by the idea of playing a game like this now, but it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to look at it with any disdain because it's the origin story.
Yeah,
it's a bit like being like, fucking hell, mate, Pong looks shit, doesn't it? Like, yeah, it does, but
yeah,
there's something strange about, like I said, but at least you feel like that was limited by the technology. Humans weren't any less creative or magical or whatever we were back in the day. It's weird to see humans kind of confined into like a little kind of way of playing. You can understand with Pong, because literally that's all they could put on a digital screen. It seems strange that they were so funneled into something so narrow. But again, like you say, I guess the limit there is more the kind of broad experience, or get all what people enjoyed, what the culture enjoyed. There were no point saying like, oh, here's this magical thing where you could do a billion things, because people be like, well, that sounds, I don't want to do it. So you got to kind of play to the time, I suppose. That's kind of the thing about it. That was the kind of limiting factor, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think and two things as well. It's like, the first thing is, I was thinking about this earlier this week actually, like violence and combat in role-playing games like are seen as essential major parts because this is the heritage. And a lot of players won't play an RPG if it doesn't have combat and want to master the combat, and that's a big draw for them. And the second thing, which I've now forgotten, so that's good.
It's semi-prepared podcast time. We can fill the gaps. But it is interesting, that point specifically, because, you know, would I want to play an RPG with no combat in? I really like the non-combat stuff. I don't know if there's many that I would, though. Or unless there's something that's sort of like...
I put Blades in that category, though. Like, not a dedicated combat
Not
system.
a combat sort of mode, you know, anything that goes into sort of map-based ranged weapons stats. Okay, then in that case, yes. I was going to say, though, or something that's like sort of combat adjacent, like, I guess, like non-lethal conflict stuff. And I can't think of an example, maybe you can, but what springs to mind actually is a video games reference. But it's, I'm going to mention my favorite game, or one of the Griftlands, where they have an entire battle system that is representing negotiations. And I think stuff like that probably has been ported into games that I don't know about, but that could be a good way to have sort of games that are not combat driven, that sort of still have that strategic confrontation.
And the crunch as well, right? You want to mechanize the resolution still. I thought of my other point. It's that you can see where you have the sort of almost polarized sects of role-playing games, where you have the grognards and the theatre kids. And you can see that, you can imagine in the 80s, you can imagine the theatre kids had no interest in this game. Like, this would not interest them in the slightest.
No.
Whereas, and the grognards would have no interest in role-playing out a scene and caring about how their character feels.
Yeah.
In their emotional journey. Nice. Well, that leads us nicely into the second culture, which is one that I reference a lot, because I think this is 90% of people's first experience of role-playing games, and consequentially their majority of play. And this is traditional play, or trad. And this is where we find modern D&D and Pathfinder and Wrath and Glory and Soulbound. maybe not Soulbound, but
that's still a bit of a spectrum.
Yeah, I mean, this is your classic. Any game that has that D&D formula of there's a lot of combat rules.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a few social kind of rules, exploration rules and stuff, but there's lots of items, there's lots of mechanics. And the way that it plays is that the GM runs the players through a story with a big bad guy and different dungeons or places, and you level up and you go through it and you beat the bad guy. And this sort of came about through modules like Ravenloft, like Curse of Strahd, modern version, where there was like this big, more narrative experience. Like, here's a world, there's stories going on, you get to be the heroes of this story. And I would say us as a group, and me even before we started playing, this was the only game style that I played.
Yeah, and it's definitely the entry point for most people. I think, I mean, obviously that probably just comes back to just D&D being the entry point for most people, right? But it does mean that the vast majority of people have only ever played these types. Because once you're finally either bored of or comfortable enough with that setting, you might branch out to another one in the same category.
Yeah, exactly. If you look at like there's D&D with the big market share, and then if you look at like the second layer, you've got Pathfinder, you've got Vampire the Masquerade, you've got Call of Cthulhu, like those kind of games, all very much in that same thing.
Where you go next. And then I don't know how that market share looks like when you look at anything else. Presumably it's some sort of like speck of sand on a beach.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's like Pluto in the solar system. Another interesting point about trad games is that they are inspired a lot by media, popular media, which is why you have a lot of games based off of established universes, so like Star Wars, Star Trek, Dragon Age, like loads of games and books and films have all had RPG adaptations with these rule sets.
And
I'm throwing because I'm looking
right on the whole.
Yeah, I'm just throwing because I was looking at this retired adventurer blog thing, and obviously it's this is like this person's their history lesson, their in-depth thing, and it's an insane amount of detail. And I'm sorry, there's a line where he mentions that trad emerged in the late 1970s with an early intellectual hub in the Dungeons and Beavers crew at Caltech. And I just read it and I thought, has he just miswritten dragons? Is it just why? How can you write just earnestly Dungeons and Beavers and not be like, yeah, no, that's a thing that existed. It's funny.
That
like
feels to me like some grognard banter.
Well, exactly.
It feels to me like maybe beavers with their their not patron. What's it? Symbol? No. What's it called? Like
mascot.
Yes.
Well, I will play a beaver character any day. I would. So I'm not gonna GM shame them. But anyway, I mean, this one's hard to argue with, right? This does sound pretty much. I mean, right? I'm worried the rest are all going to be like, well, they're all weird, but it's
they're enjoyable. They're what we know. It's super easy, like applicable. Like it's on the whole, it's kind of like what's not to love, which obviously we'll get onto. But also like again within that spectrum, like having played, we did one session of Pathfinder.
Yeah.
I wouldn't touch Pathfinder with a barge pole now. I've just got better things to do with my life, and not because I think it's a bad game. I like a Wrath and Glory is a pretty crunchy game, and Pathfinder makes Wrath and Glory look like a kid's game.
Yeah.
And it's so amazing how everything can be represented cleverly through rules, which is fun for some people. No thanks. I wouldn't even probably play Pathfinder in video game format, even though it's supposed to be very good, because even in that format, without having to, it's supposed to be really good, even without having to actually internalize all those rules and having the game systems do a lot of it for you. It just seems just too much for me to be to find it interesting.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I thought the same thing when I read through the Call of Cthulhu rulebook. It's like it's like do you remember we used to talk about Shadowrun as well?
Yeah.
And it's like the idea that game rulebooks are so dense that it puts you off playing. That seemed to be just part of the hobby. Like, I'm not hardcore enough to play this game.
Yeah, and there is a touch of gatekeepiness there, isn't there? Like, of I'm not going to cast any generalizations about what Pathfinder players may or may not be, but I can well imagine that there is a group of quite elitist players who like feel that because they play the most complicated game and they play it the best and the crunchiest and the most like power gamey, that's an elite crew of players. And I imagine they may sneer at some of the simpler games in the same way. But something that I just don't think I could ever find enjoyment out of. Like when I read people's optimized builds for anything, actually. Like I'm sure you and your spreadsheet had a lot of fun tonight. True did.
Yeah. We'll see when if Josh ever gets to take us through a Pathfinder campaign.
I guess I look at this one, and like I think I was trying to think the most different one. I wonder where brains leaving my head as it always does. Vampire game, where that falls in any of these definitions, I suppose, because that's obviously. I mean, is that traditional? And when I say vampire game, I mean the I just can't remember what I'm saying. What's it called?
Masquerade.
What we played? No, the one we all played together.
Eat the Reich.
We were vampires. Eat the Reich.
Oh, either right.
Like, does that just fall neatly to trad, or is that going to jump in one of the rest of them? That was very kind of like.
That's definitely not trad.
Okay, cool. So that's interesting. Right? That's good. At least gets a few bit of variation to, because we liked that a lot. So it'd be interesting to use that as a benchmark for another.
Yes. Well, I mean, this is the interesting. I mean, this is a good time to bring this up as well, because, like most, attempts to put things neatly into categories or pigeonholes, there is no perfect alignment with different games and different styles and stuff. So Eat the Reich, you can have a discussion and say it's a bit of this, it's a bit of that. It's not going to fit perfectly into one category. And actually, even I sometimes couldn't tell you the difference between one or the other. And I've seen people have a go at it, and everyone has a different opinion on what is trad versus what is something else. Like, where do you draw the line? It's a bit like trying to describe the class system in Britain. It's like it's dependent on many factors. It's more vibe based. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it strikes me as when you're trying to say like what's an indie game, and you're like, well, there's facts and feelings, and the answer is it's genuinely a combination of both.
Yes. Yes. Le indie gem Witcher 3, for example.
Yeah.
Indie Darling Baldur's Gate 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like technically an indie.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Is it?
Is it though? Nice. Well, I'll move on to the next one. We can always discuss as a whole, but I think for me, the trad games. I know we've discussed the comfy slippers games, and for me that is trad games. They're like Nespresso coffee. They're fine. They're never going to blow your socks off. They're never going to, but they're always there to fall back on. You'd rather have that than instant.
Exactly, and in here, instant is what's the first category called?
Classic.
Classic. Instant is classic.
Yeah.
Trad is Nespresso, and now we move on to, I suppose, sort of more artisan pour over territory.
So,
or is there's something else in between?
So the next one I would say is more like I'm going to say it's more like
Frappuccino.
What's it called where you put something in coffee? I can't remember what it is now.
what's it
We might
called?
have to be more specific.
Something in coffee.
Something that shouldn't go in coffee, you put in coffee.
Yeah.
Forget it. It's I'm going to say this is Vietnamese coffee. There you go.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. This is obscure. This is so number 3 is something called Nordic Larp.
Is this going to be the Borgs?
No, good guess though from the Nordic side of it. So we know what LARP is, right? Live action role playing.
We do.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, Michael's brother. He's a big LARPer, isn't he? He's got all the outfits that you've borrowed.
Oh yeah, just a little. Yeah,
just a little. He's got his horns. He's got a
he's
set
got
of horns.
horns. He does.
So this is the one that confuses me the most about being on here. But I think the reason the culture that it is absorbing, and there are people who do this, and learning about it, I've noticed this more now. But it's the idea that you basically immerse yourself in the game and your character. So you're almost playing it as a role, almost for an entire weekend, as LARPers do. And it has a more kind of shared narrative thing. So it's like a DMless. So it's kind of like, as we said, the grognards in Classic. This is the theatre kids, right? This is the complete other side of it.
Yeah.
And I've never been interested in LARPing. I do like playing characters, but I don't know where the line is for me.
Well, it's so interesting because this one I can't. It doesn't. This whole, again, maybe this is the be all end all, but in this blog, it doesn't even mention a system. It just mentions it, and so I can't really get my head around it. But all I can think of is just, well, they're just LARPing. Then what's the difference? Are they still sitting at a table? I'm trying to figure out what exactly they're doing here because it sounds like they're just LARPing, which is obviously very different to playing a TRPG.
So,
like do end of the
So there are some games that are like, there's hardly any rules. Maybe the game has, I've mentioned before, 1 page of rules or even 1 sentence of rules. We roll the dice. If the GM rolls higher, if I roll higher, what I say happens. If you roll higher, what you say happens. It could be, I don't know if you watched the new Quinn's Quest video where he reviews a bunch of boxed games. But there's a game where there's like this massive scroll that rolls out, and it's like a map, and it guides the players from location to location. Very, very low mechanics, very, very heavily story focused and role play focused, right? Almost like a
I can see why you
exercise.
wouldn't like that as much, because if I was to put words in your mouth, it would be that the systems are really important. It's not actually that important. What's important is how efficient and clever and interesting they apply things and make things happen. So they can be more and less complex. But I think the things that you seem to find most interesting are where there's a less is more approach to systems, but you still need the systems to make it a game, and it is still a game. Even for the ones that are very rules light, something to that effect, and I guess that's the line, isn't it? Really, where like it's quite tenuous to say whether or not that's a game. Like, you don't have to say if it's a game or not; it doesn't really matter if it's just a thing that people like. But that's a role playing experience. These are tabletop role playing games that we generally play.
It's so interesting. I've not put the lens of TRPGs on the LARP systems we used to play. I can't really think about it. I'm pretty sure all it was the defined thing was your character. You knew how many hit points you had. You knew what skills you had. You knew what damage you would deal if you hit someone. But it being LARPing and being physical, you were in a space, and there was what called GM. There would be a leader of the thing. They would just say 4 skeletons appear. It was then just the chaos of dealing with that. Like, you would just have to physically move. You have to avoid and dodge, or you're in a room and you see there are traps. It was physical and it was moving. So it was such great escapism because you inhabit that role, and there's no barrier to it in a way, because it's like they're going to play, you're all dressed up, you're ready to go, you're moving physically. And I don't think the person who created the adventures could make up whatever the fuck they wanted, and the only thing that limited it really was, again, what your character could do and kind of what you're physically able to do in a space. So that works really well in LARPing. I can't imagine. To me, it's so cringe, the concept of sitting. I know it sounds weird. It's a big difference between sitting down, wearing a little wizard's hat and a cloak, and saying "I go forward," and standing up and saying "I go." And that's a huge divide. I'd never want to LARP sitting down at a table like that. That's not purely because then suddenly it's like, why are we doing this again? Why are we sitting here pretending when we could just
we could
do it properly. do it properly and go all out, go to a big giant LARP adventure and that'd be amazing. Or yes, get lost in a system where you benefit from sitting down and having rules and being able to actually stop and pause. Because again, you can't. It's sometimes harder to fully role play when you're, especially on a laptop or even in person, because there's a bit of limit of, we're sitting here a bit awkward that you're sitting there and it's hard to get really into a moment and you're kind of sitting there and waving your arms. So yeah, it seems like a strange system. I love LARPing, but I don't know the concept of doing a LARPing sit down table purely LARPing, because I'm just like, well, just go LARP. It's great. Go do that instead.
How much of the LARPing there was? Did you ever feel like you were playing a character who was not you, who was different, with their own feelings?
I mean, I was like,
and thoughts?
it was between the age of like 10 to 14, so a bit different, but it was more just like empowering that you're playing some guy who could, when he hit a monster, it would die. But yeah, probably not too much character beyond being like a brave person doing things. But yeah, sometimes you'd act heroically if you're a heroic warrior, and you might be a bit sneaky if you were a rogue. So there were certainly people to get into it very seriously. So it's not easier to do, isn't it, when you're LARPing, because you're right there and you're actually doing it. So when you say I stab you in the back or I hide behind a rock, you're actually doing it. And that's a huge difference, right? But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the fun is to inhabit a role of your character, and it talks about bleed, which is where what's happening to your character, you then start to feel those emotions as if you are that character. It's like if your character is dying in a role-playing game, you feel sad as if it's you, or something bad happens to your character, you feel sad because it's happening as if it's happening to you. And then
Mikey certainly does.
Yes, I get very upset.
It always reminds me of that time in Blades. Do you remember when Laurie wanted to go along the rooftops and drop some grenades on the street? And of course there was a 10-minute discussion about why this was a really bad idea. And then he did all of his like sort of no pain, no gain kind of abilities. So it was like super desperate, but you get a +1 dice and da-da-da-da-da. Yeah. And then he fails and he gets like a desperate consequence. And then just got really annoyed about it.
Yeah, and it was the I just want to do something cool, man feeling was not delivered on that occasion. And obviously it wasn't really the right game for it.
Yeah.
But that's sort of, I guess, what you get from more the empowering experience of LARPing, sort of. Although I suppose when you're LARPing, you may struggle to jump out of a window and drop grenades on the street.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
that's more frustration, isn't it? Of like, right, this game has a system where if I roll dice and do it, I can do great. But then the dice roll badly, and the frustration is that the mechanics didn't work. It's kind of a mechanical failure where it kind of feels frustrating. Where again, if you're actually LARPing, you're actually trying to story-wise, and you decide, right, my character, he's really, I don't know, really smart, so I'm going to do the puzzle. I'm going to want to try to solve it. You fail and actually say the wrong word, and the room explodes. You would hope there's a bit of kind of excitement that, wow, that really character-driven decision I made fucked everything up. It's still kind of exciting that it happened. You'd hope that kind of sits in there a little bit as well. No, it sounds really good. I love the idea of inhabiting the role. I just again would find it weird doing it at a table. I'd be like, well, I feel like we should be up and kind of moving around, especially if we're not going to have loads of sheets and dice and rules. Then why aren't we kind of? But then maybe that's also hard to do. You need like a space and stuff like that. So.
You've got a big house. It's fine. We'll calm down.
It's true. Yeah, put some stuff in the garden. It's all good.
Loads of outfits. Yeah, I think it's that thing as well. Like you're playing a role. So really, like if your double L role doesn't go the way you want it to, it's still fun to play that. Yeah. That turn of events. It's like the character you're playing in the script of the play has, like, you know, something bad happens to them. You're not going to be like, oh, but my character's awesome.
That was Blaze, wasn't it? It was like where our characters were quite well defined and we acted, and it would just go, and it's all fucked up, and you've been spotted, and go. And it was like, but that was really fun. Like I would whinge and moan when those engagement roles would be shit. But a part of me knew, but this is going to be really fun because this is going to be stupid. How the hell are we getting out of it? And it did feel like, we as characters were getting into the shit and getting out again. So that to me stands out kind of as a
there's no surprise there's basically no heist movies where it just works, because otherwise you don't have a movie. or any stakes or any investment. Stakes and scrapes. And you need those.
Yeah. Tommy Shelby does what he wants. The end.
Tommy Shelby sends them off, sits in his office for 3 hours, comes back, drinks his whiskey, and they say, "Yeah, boss, no worries.
Jobs are good."
Nice.
No, he needs to have the shit kicked out of him.
Yes.
I think it's interesting though, right? Because I mean, we definitely don't get to the point. As you said it there, like I'm trying to think of. I guess was it in again? Was it? It was in Blade, I suppose. I think of there were times when Saffron was kind of beaten up, or even Laurie was thrown to prison. Yeah, we didn't. You didn't get that kind of was heart wrenching. Oh God, I can't believe he's getting beaten up. It was like I didn't want it to happen, but it still wasn't quite. Even though I was very attached to that character, it still wasn't like, oh my God, Saffron. No, it was still there's still a bit of a removed step of connection to it, but it sounds like it'd be fantastic to be like, oh my God, he's getting pummeled, a panic, and not just about panic. Oh, I don't want my character to die, so I have to do a new one. A bit of that, like that would be really interesting to feel a connection to that, and that's quite hard to do. I think you need people, a group who really are all into doing that, and it's obviously quite a big ask to get people to emotionally connect to these imaginary characters, but it would be very rewarding to do.
Yeah. Well, that leads us on very nicely to our next culture.
Yeah. Scroll down. Oh, story games. Sorry, spoilers.
It is story games, and this is going to be one of the big ones because this is very much Blades in the Dark, pretty much square on the nose. And I think the reason why they've added in that Nordic Larp is because that was a progenitor to this idea that you add in narrative coherence to games. And actually, the rules should service like what's happening in the narrative, rather than the narrative being tacked on to whatever the mechanics decide, right? So, for the little history lesson segment, the real start of this would be Apocalypse World, which kicked off a whole new game engine called Powered by the Apocalypse. You roll 2 dice to do anything. 1 to 6 is a fail, 7 to 9 is a partial success, 10 to 12 is a success. Sound familiar?
It does.
And there are hundreds of games that use that engine. And then a bit later after that, Blades in the Dark came in with the Forge in the Dark engine, which I would say is even more superior, which again has spawned loads of games. And this is pretty much, for me, where you get the heights of enjoyment, for me, in role-playing games. I still think our Blades campaign was the most rewarding. And I don't think anything we've played has touched the sides, so to speak.
I mean, yep. Section complete. Fully agree. Like, hard to transition from trad games to these story games. It's a bit jarring. We found it difficult at times, which I feel there's an episode on that somewhere. But like, without getting too much into that side of things, like it was a bit of an adjustment, but once you've adjusted, and the shackles of unnecessary mechanics are thrown off. And sometimes those shackles, sometimes freedom is a prison, actually. But like, and, sometimes it feels a bit like that because you don't know how to apply yourself in the world. But like, the freedom to tell a really good story and realize that your character and the story you're making up together with your friends is actually super rewarding. More rewarding for me than 3 hours of trying to kill a dragon could ever be, even if I enjoy that too in a different way.
Yeah, and Heart is obviously, similar. I think the big difference where Heart's not quite this currently on that level is just because obviously the joy of it is actually more the passive observation of being like, oh, this place looks weird. It's almost like a tourist thing that I find the most enjoyable about it. But it's harder to immerse yourself because the world's always you're not in a place inhabiting a space. You're kind of just going through, so it's a bit harder to kind of cling on to those narrative threads and character beats because not the actual character beats, the actual storyline ones because the small beat, big beat because the world's shifting. So that's. But I think again, I look obviously very keen to get back to either Blade or a format like it, where it's very similar. To go again with all the new learned experience and kind of come in really hot on that and kind of have a lot more of that kind of ability to cut through it, because certainly when you stop and look at what we did in that, like I guess I always kind of assume, oh well, it was all pre-written, wasn't it? But you forget how much of it was just kind of born of, we say being written together, it makes it sound like we all sat down and wrote notes. It just was drafted with a very skilled GM, refining those changes and shifts into a plot, as it were. But it really was all driven by us, and that is super rewarding. I didn't even notice it's happening in a way. You kind of just playing. Oh yeah, it makes sense that we're here, but actually, we could have easily not been here, like any free open world kind of game. So yeah, no, it's obviously the good stuff. It's great seeing the history of this stuff. I had no idea. I had no idea any of this stuff was so deep. It's one of those like turning a rock and suddenly there's like a whole world you never even knew existed. But fantastic to see those kind of those drives towards what we play, and it's got to be up there.
No pressure, Ollie, but I do think that the Scum and Villainy campaign is going to be us at our zenith. Coming into that with better experience. And I guess I think the other thing, like a slightly more, because I think a lot of these are all going to rely on like familiarity with the world somewhat, because you've got to tell a story, making it up as you go along. It's quite hard to do that without being fully immersed. And okay, that didn't get in that way too much in Blades, a little bit, but the sort of classic sci-fi setting, I think will be immensely easy for us to be like, I'm going to do that thing that happened in Star Wars or Firefly or Star Trek or something else.
I'm going to do a Firefly.
I mean, if we don't do a Firefly, like at least, I don't know, probably like 6 of the different episodes worth, then I'm not coming. I'm going to dress up as Malcolm Reynolds for every episode, every week.
Love it.
I mean, it's pretty easy from the waist down. I literally just need a red shirt. I'll do it. But yeah, I mean, this category of games is so eye-opening. We only discovered what was it, like a year and a half ago. We were like, right, I don't know where we started Blades, but whatever it was, and that was like the first time we'd even dabbled in that. And we've been playing games together for ages.
It was pretty much all of last year, I think.
Yeah. But you specifically introduced me to role-playing games in what year? 2018 or something?
Something like that, yeah. 2017.
I don't know. Like, quite a long time ago. And we've played RPG games all that time. And only last year-ish were my eyes even open to this as a game type, let alone playing it. So it's kind of fascinating to find yourself in that little tiny niche.
Yep. And do you know the catalyst that made me want to run it? Do you remember? It was we had a conversation. We were having dinner in Manchester.
Remember?
I was never in Manchester.
What was it?
It was so after we finished our second Soulbound campaign.
Oh yeah.
And we were talking about how we really just wanted to play something that was player driven.
Yeah.
And was open ended, and you guys could do what you wanted instead of being pulled along a railroad in that trad way. Yeah.
Where we had some heated debrief discussions about whether or not we felt like our choices were even choices, and so on. And then like all the cogs start going, and Ollie's like, well, actually, how about we swing so hard to the choices, all the choices are your own, that you won't even be able to cope with it.
Yeah. I'm going to raise you and ask you to make every decision. And then
you want choice, you can't handle the choice.
Yeah, that whole first series was based off of plots that I put forward. I
Love
kicked
it.
you off with. The whole reason you hated the red sashes was because in the first session I was like, so there's a war going on, you have to pick side A or side B.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's worth noting that Mikey described how we told all of that story ourselves. What actually happened is we dithered, couldn't figure out how to make a decision, and then Ollie, with his notes of like 5 plot hooks in case the players can't figure out what to do, would be like, "So, do you want to attack their supply line?" And we'd be, yes, that sounds good. That sounds good. And there was, and that was pretty much every quest we went on. Even when we knew what we wanted to do, we didn't know how to approach doing it. Which again is all part of the challenge. But then it is true that from what might have been, I don't know, what might have been one bullet point in your notes does then become a sort of 3-episode arc, and I think that's the beauty of those games.
Yeah. It's even just grabbing stuff like Alex's random bit of story that he'd come up with his scarab, a relic that he wanted from the first episode.
Oh yes.
And then making that central to this whole thing with the that group of weirdos who were kind of his faction rivals almost. But yeah, I think I have written. I was checking because I have written 2 blogs about. One's called Story Games Are My Jam. Here's why. And the other one is called Learning to Enjoy Running Trad Games, which was about when I run Dragonbane after playing Blades. And I had like a fresh eyes, I guess, on the genre. Made me appreciate some bits and realize some bits I just can't go back to, which we did discuss in the Dragonbane review.
Indeed.
In terms of maybe what we don't like about story games, I don't really miss dedicated combat mechanics, although there is a Forged in the Dark game about mechs that has a tactical combat rule set, which I'm very allured by. But also, I think what I write about in my blogs is that it is very player driven, which can be hard for the GM especially to give up that power, and also to convince the players to take up those reins. Because one thing that the godfather of story games wrote about in one of his essays was that because most people learn trad games, they do kind of get stuck in that mindset where it's almost like they're caged in and they can't leave the cage. I mean, there's that experiment where they have a dog in a cage and they shock it, and when they open the cage, it doesn't want to leave. It's a bit of a psychological phenomena. And that's kind of what D&D players are like. Yeah. It's like, no, please tell me what happens to your character. Tell me what's in this room. Tell me what this faction that you're related to, like what they're about.
You get completely stuck in your role is to react to the world that's given to you. Like, who comes in, what quests do you have to respond to, which road do you choose to go down from the options I'll give you. And it's suddenly difficult.
Yeah. And I think video games also, in that same essay, he did say that the players or like students that he was testing his theories on that were gamers were way more susceptible to that kind of thing, actually, and struggled to switch into almost like a screenwriter, story writer mindset where they're thinking about plots and beats and story arcs and stuff. which is interesting.
And even having done some of that, like even having done some GMing and some seeing what it's like from the other side, and being like, I just wish the players would just do this stuff. I've laid it all out for them. Like, even having been there, obviously not that much, but like, you'd think that you come a bit more prepared for taking the reins in the story game, and suddenly you just find that you're not. And it is a really hard adjustment. And so that's like for me, is the only thing to not like is when you feel that you can't drive it forward because you don't know enough about what's going on, about the world, about stuff. And some of that's down to your investment and thought out of session and stuff, and some of it's down to like familiarity and confidence and a bit of prompting or whatever. That's the only thing I think that's really tough, is that if you do get in a rut, it makes you feel a lot. You kind of feel like useless, like you don't know how to play the game properly or get anything out of it. Like you can't really feel like that in a D&D unless you've built a really bad character or something, because you're always just doing the thing. Doing the thing. Might do it well, might do it badly, but you're never like, I don't know what to do. Four experienced role-playing adults sat in a call going,
what do you mean? Gather information. I don't know what to do.
At least you knew the scope was there. It makes me think of Soulbound, where both things didn't work because I had a character that didn't work. It was both his whole main thing, the fire, whatever, just was irrelevant, and all his powers had to be nerfed because they were too stupidly written, and the storyline was limited as well. So that was both those things. That was limited by the character and by the story. So it meant that you couldn't really enjoy either. Whereas at least there were those moments, you're right, it's frustrating when you kind of, I can't think of a good example, like a good parallel, but you're kind of in place, and you can kind of also like see this great opportunity, and it's frustrating. You can't, like, it's almost like something's amazing to you, like you say, you're like, well, I know I could do anything, but I don't really can't. I don't actually really understand it. Are we in an alleyway, or we buy this? And so I don't really want to jump and say, well, I get that, but at least it's there. At least that's exciting. Like it's there. Like there's much worse scenarios to be in, and that, like you said, comes down to experience and confidence. And I don't know how you could get over that hurdle. I mean, again, me being, I'd love like a little briefing pack and a full map and a 3D model. We could see us in there, and we could put it in there. No, exactly. So I know. But failing that, I don't know the way around that to make sure you've got that. But end of the day, we still did it. Like, and it's still, yes, you come back and think, and we do stupid stuff with the research, and we do all this stuff, and you'd be like, you didn't actually check. Like, we didn't just walk around the building and find where the door was. And you're like, for fuck's sakes. But that's still added to all the fun. End of the day, we made that choice, and the things we did still played out into the whole thing. So although it's a frustration, it's I don't know how you can massage over it, because it's kind of the point is that you have. Is I always use the example actually of like if you're at a music festival, you're gonna miss some bands. You can't see everything, and it's frustrating. You're like, oh man, if I could have just got to this and there and done half an hour, I could have seen all these things. And actually, like, well, actually, part of the joy is what you missed. Like, it's kind of the part of the experience. Oh, I didn't see that. I can't believe it, but I did do this, and that is frustrating with those games. But it's a good frustration. It shows you're frustrated because you're missing something, not because something's holding you back. You're frustrated because you felt you could have done even more, but actually, you can only really do whatever it is you can do. So, yeah.
I mean, that's the big
thing.
If
you could make a 3D map of all of our encounters, that'd be really good. Like, that'd be great. Just map it into Google Maps. Like, can we do that? Like, have a little kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I do wonder if, when I say like it's very, for me personally, this is my favorite culture of play. I do wonder if that's just because my brain is wired in a way that it gels really well. That idea that I can imagine these spaces, and I can imagine it in my head, and I can imagine the bank building, and I can say, okay, I want to know, I don't know where the streets are, and I want to know what's around the back, and I want to know where the top windows are, and I want to know the guards, and I want to know what's inside, and and so I do wonder if, money where my mouth is, if I was a player in a long-term campaign, would I struggle with the same issues? I don't know.
I think less than us, but that is experience and lots of it, and lots of thinking that way. I think you might encounter a bit of the same, probably. I think that's one thing, again, going on the other side of the screen, you do learn very quickly that when you've planned it and you've read the literature a bit more than everyone else, and you've got this idea of the campaign in your head, everything's so blindingly obvious, and it's so shocking that when you put people in a situation where you know the solution and the outcomes, and you believe everyone has all the information, and there are 5 clear ways to approach a situation: talk to that person, negotiate with them, shoot that person, blow a hole in the wall. All of these, so many options. It's so shocking to see that nobody in the room sees a single one of them the same way. And so it is very easy to forget that, I think, when you're on the other side. Because it should be obvious, but it isn't. And they're assessing getting the information in for the first time. Not you. Even if you weren't given a solution by a book or something, like, you've still thought about it. And so I think it's probably there is a real element of that.
I think so. I think so. What was I going to say? Yeah. No,
anyway, story games, really good. A challenge.
Go on.
Let's wrap up your segment.
All right, let's move on. Because we can talk about story games. We can talk about Blades, and why we like Blades all day.
Yeah.
So, next one, number 5. This is, interestingly, the culture that we went to after we played Blades, and this is the OSR. The old school Renaissance. So this is Pirate Borg. So
didn't play like that, sounds fine.
So yeah, you were gone, and then when you were here, you were a monkey.
And then you were dead. Stupid idiot.
Not my fault.
And then you came back to
my
life.
fault.
So OSR is essentially a way of rekindling that old classic culture, but getting rid of all the bullshit, stripping it back to its basics. And the features that make it OSR is lots of rollable tables, for example. Minimal rule sets, like frequent character death, or like very likely character death. And one of the big things is that it is almost the opposite of story games, because OSR is supposed to be very simulationist. And I don't know if this came across in Pirate Borg, but it's the kind of game where, you leave town, you journey to the dungeon, you play out the journey, you roll for random encounters, you roll for the random weather, you roll for taking random injuries, you get to the dungeon, you go down, you light up one of your torches, you mark it off on your sheet, you go down, you fight the monsters, and if you want to go back to town, we play out you going through the dungeon again, we role play the journey back to town again. And it's very much like that. It's playing out those moment-to-moment things. Very simulationist, very player-driven, but in a completely opposite way. Whereas a narrative game, in Blades in the Dark, we say, okay, we do the engagement roll, we jump to the action, you're outside the bank. Whereas OSR is more interested in almost like a survival sim. You're just dropped in the world, off you go.
I mean, it gets a little bit hazy, doesn't it, when you're kind of playing all the games between them, and the lines get a bit blurry, but what's a bit more like what? Like, I liked it. But did I like it more than just a regular trad game in the end? I don't know. I think I'm trying to draw what I liked about Pirate Borg versus, because it was Pirate Borg and it's the setting and the whole Borg weirdness from the game system. I feel like what I take away most was I kind of like the systems were there. And I remember the game more. And I don't know if that just says like maybe the systems didn't feel like they had much of an impact on me. Because because it didn't feel a million miles away actually from trad, just like
No.
smaller rule set.
Yeah. Yeah.
And quite harsh as well, like designed to be quite harsh, which I actually do quite like. I like, in a perverse way, kind of the punishing systems that will just really beat you up if something goes wrong, because the stakes get quite high quite fast.
Yeah.
But
what about the so usually what is quite common is you have like a map. The GM will have a map, and you might have like hexes on this map, and each hex will have something different in it, and the players can choose where to go, and they'll go to a hex and they'll figure out what's there, and then they'll say, okay, let's go to this hex. Okay, we see a forest over here, we'll go to this one. You know, and those hexes could be randomly decided, or the GM will put in stuff there. But there may not even be an overarching story. It may just be the story of the players. Like with Pirate Borg, I was like, what do you want to do? You want to steal a ship? Okay, that's the adventure. What do you want to do now? Steal a bigger ship. Okay, that's the adventure.
Yeah, and I think when you frame it like that, it's a bit like, well, it's really just like it's just get connected dungeon crawls, really, isn't it? Even if the dungeon crawl is you on a ship journey, it kind of still is.
Yeah,
not as appealing to me.
Yeah, and a lot of people like this style. Lots and lots of modern games are in this genre. And I think for me, the randomness is too random. What I like about the story games as opposed to this is that we get to decide what the narrative is, or from the narrative, what is the most satisfying thing. Whereas a rollable table won't do that for you. It'll just be completely random. That time when you were like, oh, you got drunk on that beach, and then we had to roll to see what happened, and it's like you summoned a skeleton and got laid. It was like, well, let's just gloss over that.
Yeah.
That was,
and it just didn't really make sense for anything, and it was like,
and we tried really hard to make it make sense, but it just
and so it's just never gonna make sense in that way, is it? It's just like stuff happens.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And and there is no like fairness or balance at all. It's like if you go to a hex with a big troll in, you'll get smooshed, and the life of shitty adventure number one is gone. Make a new character.
I mean, well, I by rights should have had my opening character killed within like the first 30 minutes or hour of our game, and that's how the game's designed.
Yes.
And that's just not going to be for everyone, is it?
Conversely, when Josh towards the end had created this quite powerful sorcerer who could control 10 undead thralls at once in the middle of a ship battle, he survived this whole time to become this quite powerful character, which was quite cool actually. I thought, like, quite in a condensed campaign, it was quite cool to see that you've suddenly gone from being the everyman to being one of the most powerful beings in the Dark Caribbean.
And that's quite a crazy kind of advancement, and part of that kind of insane power fantasy at the other end, right? It just sort of, it can go very harshly one way or the other.
Yeah.
One of us was a monkey. I assume you're referring to my monkey as the most powerful character in the Caribbean. That's who you are.
Well, I thought it was very generous in the end for Ollie to even consider accepting that your monkey was allowed to wear like the leather jerkin that was lying around.
Yeah.
That's too much. Oh no, raise 50 Hellspawn. Go for it, mate. Oh, you want to wear a bit of leather on you? You want to have a little strap on you? Oh, I don't know. Oh, unrealistic.
I mean, it feels unresolved.
It
It feels unresolved, that one. Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say I became the spirit of a fallen captain that everyone.
You did.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
See, that happened.
Yeah.
That happened.
It all happened in a rushed epilogue that I gave you, yes? So
it all happened in the okay, let's move on segment.
Yeah, you've got your next ship. Okay, congratulations. The biggest ship in the port. Mikey, what do you think about OSR games? Do you think that's something that you would ever enjoy?
I guess. I mean, I'm struggling to necessarily because as I didn't play as much Pirate Borg in depth, kind of get the difference between that and story game. And obviously, they're these open, choose your own, go for it kind of things. I think again, maybe the set. I don't know what that would look like in a small setting. Again, being the whole ocean. Again, you get almost that kind of heart effect of like you're in a place that's great, but it's like, but goodness me, what the hell are we going to cling onto? Whereas obviously in Blade, it was just so easy to cling onto our headquarters, and we could see where the canals were and the docks, and we knew where our territory was. So I think it was someone recently was talking about like I can't remember if it's been created or people say it'd be a great idea, like a dense RPG that takes place in like a 1 mile city block, but everything is just so densely detailed. Whether you could do that in a smaller space, maybe that would fit my sensibilities more, about having this complete freedom, but like it's very clear where you are and who you can talk to, but just everything is very dense. Whereas it was very Skyrim-y. I always describe that as being like a game that everyone was like, oh, it's so great, but it was huge and wide, but it felt so shallow, like a puddle you could splash around rather than something just a deep puddle. So maybe that was not a great example of it, but I think, like you say, the concern comes in of too much freedom, but with no confinement of even like a place or a sense of where you are. So not only is the entire story free, but the entire world is like, oh, I'll just sail 400 nautical miles west and go that way. So that maybe not the best example of it, but I love the idea of freedom, and it's probably the best. Yes.
Let me just stop you there, because
Segway.
You can't just sail 400 nautical miles, because in Pirate Borg you have to pay the crew, you have to service your ship, you have to maintain crew morale. You can't just go sailing because they'll get really annoyed. You have to go and do piratey things.
So there's quite a limit. It's like hey, ultimate freedom with, again, very realistic and very sensible confines that are quite fun to work around.
That's where like the survival sim aspect comes in. Like you need to drink water, you need to build shelter.
We're almost then blending the rigidity of a classic game with kind of a Nordic LARPing game and just smush them together, and you're kind of like, is it the best of either world? And you're kind of very, very specifically confined, but with unlimited freedom to be wherever you want. And is that a bit of a clash between the two of them? I don't know. Again, I've probably not played enough to experience, but it sounds like a bit of a oil and water.
I find it like a real conflict in me is that I really like the idea of all of that boring administrative necessity in the game. I love the idea of it. I really do. Pay the crew, run out of rum. Even in other games, you got to pay your lodgings. You got to have your food. You got to. Every time I see the systems for it, I'm like, yeah, nice. I start playing the game, and I'm like, who wants to do this? And I really like it in principle, and then just not at all in the games. And I think it's because I like the idea that limitation is important.
It's a reason to even try and want more money, right?
Yeah, right. If you're not running playing a game where it's like, well, more money equals more better stuff for me to hit stuff with, or whatever, which is usually what it is. Mm-hmm. But actually, most games set you up such that you probably can't just earn money, get stuff. You'll have to earn it through doing quests or that sort of thing. And so money becomes completely pointless in almost all of those games. In almost all RPGs, unless you play it a certain way. But so then it gives value to the maintenance, the cost of adventuring. But it turns out that's actually really boring. Because we kind of sit down and basically play out the on-screen time of the movie or the TV show. And again, we never see Tommy Shelby sitting in his office for a whole episode signing papers and writing letters.
But you do play video games that do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's definitely more of the gamey side than the narrative side, isn't it? It's like, maybe that's the thing, isn't it? Because it's so simulationist that it's the nitty gritty. I go and, I guess if I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of playing one, and it was like, well, I need 50 silver to fix my ship. So I'm going to sail to the next island and I'm going to try and find a way to get 50 silver, like Jack Sparrow at the beginning of Pirates of the Caribbean 1. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go around town. I'm going to try and see if I can steal it. I'm going to try and see if I can maybe earn it. I'm going to try and fight someone on a duel or whatever it is. And because, you've got 4 hit points, it's scary.
Yeah. Yeah. But even that's still kind of the supercut of the interesting bits. Like the simulation bit is like I just get back to the guy and I click the button. Or in something like a grand strategy game, which ultimately is just a really fancy spreadsheet about like doing the puzzle of having enough wood, stone, gold, and time. But all of that stuff is simulated for you. Like to an extent, like all that stuff runs.
Yeah.
The ledgers are balanced by themselves. The house that you want, the mansion that you wanted to build, the costs come up and go out, and all of that stuff that's all done for you. You just have got money, get thing.
Yeah. So you're objecting to the paperwork rather than the concept.
I think so. I think it's just once you start putting the paperwork into the game.
Yeah.
It seems to lose its fun.
That's true. There is. I've never seen a satisfying way to count like ammo or rations, which is why it's almost always a pain in the ass to get players to remember to.
Yes, even like reloading or like how many arrows you've got or throwing knives. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's already enough to get most players to track their hit points
HP
properly
and their max hit points.
Yeah, and their spell slots of whatever form in whatever game it is.
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah,
I agree with you. All right, let's move on to our final culture. And any guesses? The most modern culture of play after all the other 5?
So I don't know what they are, and I can't think.
I cheated, so I won't answer.
What? Wait, hang on. Give me a clue. And do you think?
I'll give you a clue. A very popular 2000s teen drama.
No, it's
set in California.
Give him an RPG based clue, not a.
Give me a useful.
I don't know about those kind of things. I know about trashy.
I thought you were going to make a Matrix
from the 2000s. That would make more sense. Yeah.
Oh wait, because you are always talking about Buffy one way or the other.
I'm referring to the OC in this case. I'm referring to the OC in this case.
So this is a new version of a previous culture. So like a culture Mark II.
Well, I'm stumped. Hit me with the facts.
So it is the neo-traditional.
Right.
Always has the word OC in there quite a lot.
OC is also called OC as in original character. So
not as an Orange County telling the story of Marissa and Seth and Ryan as they embark on young adulthood. That's not what they're.
So an OC, I believe, is from fan fiction. Like OC means it's your own character basically.
Yeah.
So Neotrad is this is where the lines do get blurred, because it's obviously trad games as we know them that have adapted to I would say a post-critical role world that are bringing in more of an emphasis on story and narrative and player-driven agency to emulate that idea that, you know, everyone wants to be, you know, fucking Laura Bailey and Matt Mercer and stuff.
I do want that, yeah.
Yeah, I want that too.
Yeah, and that's fair, you know.
Yeah, and so this is where it gets quite interesting. So it says the DM is more of a curator, ensuring that players' desires and aspirations are realized within the story. So the big difference there between trad and neo-trad is that trad is like the GM has a story, and they're pulling you along the railroad, and you get to role play in like these little segments maybe. Whereas neo-trad is like the players do get to make big decisions, and the GM is there to enable that and uplift their stories that they're coming to the table with the emergent storytelling, blah blah blah. So in terms of examples, I would say that Dragonbane is a combination of this and OSR, depending on how you play it. This is also how people play 5th edition as well. Some of the
this is what I was kind of wondering is to be like, this feels actually like quite familiar territory for us, and I think that's down to what you've wanted to get out of 5th edition.
I also think this is how we played. This is how we played Wrath and Glory as well.
That was going to be the other thing I said. We did make stories, but we made them week by week based off what was happening in our campaign.
Exactly.
And we did still just be like, well, I want to tell this story, but it fit with what story was being told already. So it's actually kind of funny to me to think about this as a new and final category, because this is kind of how I'd see trad category, but then this is actually, that then becomes a bit more about the culture of the player than the game system.
Exactly.
Because actually D&D and D&D are both in this category. It just depends how you play it.
Yeah, I think with the introduction of Daggerheart, I think that's some clear water between this and D&D, and how that's sort of more narrative focused, and it's kind of taking that story game learnings, bringing it into trad games, because you can't kill the trad games, it seems, but they just take the best bits of all the other cultures.
This is really interesting, because again, similarly to what Milo was saying, it's weird to look at the last one, because this was my way into becoming really wanting to play D&D. Was the way I got into it was watching, for me, just the Dan Harmon's Harmontown podcasts, where Dan Harmon, the guy who created Rick and Morty Community, larger than life character, completely off the wall, but a very, very clever, smart improv guy, so he could do that. He used to play D&D when he was younger, and in the shows that he just kept saying, I want to play D&D, I want to play D&D. Is there a DM out there? And just someone in the crowd was, and he was a relatively quiet, shy guy, and he came up and DM'd a thing for them, and they played the campaign, and the DM was very competent, funny in his own way because he was dry, but just was there to let them be absolutely mad, and they would go off the rails, and they would have new guests, they'd have proper celebrities coming in to play as well. So it works really well in that sense for that kind of entertainment show, because again, you are hooked into it, and the DM provides that comfy kind of like secure base into whatever they want, because they're skilled enough to pull them back. But the DM would have to really would have to love being in that role, because you're not doing much, but you are really there as a facilitator. You have to really enjoy, and the people doing that would have to be incredibly talented, incredibly funny. And that's why when I came to playing, that's kind of how I would want to play, because it means I just go off the rails and throw shit and go crazy. But that you need the exact right combination. It doesn't work the times that I want to go and be stupid and silly. I've hopefully rubbed that in a little bit over the years, because it just doesn't work as much. But then you mentioned Wrath and Glory, which is really great, because actually that was so funny, because I had a very defined character I loved playing and did some big crazy shit, and I don't understand 40k at all. But I still felt really confident and comfortable to do that. And thinking back, it's really great. And that I can't necessarily remember how active you were pushing the story along or not, Ollie, but you did create a really safe, stable base to do. I felt confident in doing those things that the Cardinal did. It just felt right based on what we've been told and what I did. So that could be in the contender. Maybe it's not quite what it is, but that, when you think, I would never have thought as Wrath and Glory as being that, but now you say it, kind of felt like that, in that I felt I could be a larger than life character and manipulate the story, because everything was so rock solid. The world was rock solid. You're the DM was rock solid, and I could play, and it would always come back to earth. So that was kind
Milo
of, yeah.
was GMing as well.
Yeah. Of course, yes. Of course,
Yes. Lest ye fucking forget.
Well,
He did yell at you a lot more than I do. But
Well,
Yeah, that's true. Maybe you've blanked out those memories. But you should remember both of us trying desperately, like in a fuck. What's the first category called?
Classic.
Like in a classic game, both of us desperately trying to kill you just to teach you a lesson. Every week,
someone with a legendary flamethrower.
So I'm thinking about finding a servitor with 8 multi-melters just to see if we possibly hurt the little bastard.
Yeah, we need something to come from behind, because that's where Mikey will be with his giant shield.
Oh yeah. So, exactly.
But,
so I'm currently torn between that's if I could just snap my fingers and play away that way, but that wouldn't work with our group, and I love playing with our group. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it was a different way, that's how I'd want to play. But that's
I think that's the other thing, right? Is like, this is how we've always played all of our games, really, and a lot of that is Ollie's influence and the players that you've curated into our group, and that's like an our culture thing. But actually, if I go onto Reddit, if I go on r/D&D, right, where I imagine all the critters are banned from, and like, it is actually still, for an awful lot of people, insanely crunch driven, rules based. I do these 3 spells consecutively, which means that I can actually store a town in my bag, and the DM can't fucking stop me. Can you actually? And like, that is still actually a lot of what D&D is. And then on the flip side, weirdly, you have the I cut off his head D&D players, and it's all just like, all of these people are crammed into one system somehow. So it's, and we're like not even in the middle, but like in this other area, which is above those two, obviously.
And then you've got the critters who would rather just be would rather not roll any dice and just tell their cool backstory. Yeah.
Tell a really cool story, but not consider that there might be a better way to do it, like in a game that gives you the tools or takes away the restrictions to allow you to do that. A game that takes away your tools.
Yeah. Takes away the sort of hours you have to spend playing a board game and fighting things and forgetting what you're actually doing.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a note here about this. I mean, there is something called, if you do go onto r/D&D or one of those, you search for tyranny of fun. This is a new phrase, kind of post Neotrad world, where there is a pushback towards this idea that just because something is cool and fun, does that mean that takes precedent over what the rules say or what the game says? I get it from the perspective of, the example is, a lot of rule books say if a rule isn't fun, don't use it. But the idea is, where do you draw the line? If Michael Peichel wants to be a dragon at level 1, because he thinks that's fun,
Was a dragon
Do you
level
say
100
yes?
French dragon?
No, I mean an actual dragon.
Oh, right.
But that's a whole other discussion. That's
That is.
come from.
I think because you think of characters, I love the idea of being like a full giant dragon, but you're level 1, so you really can't do anything. You still have to like kind of plod along and
Roll
like
D4 damage.
swipe at things really gently. It's kind of funny. Why wouldn't that be the case?
Yeah.
But I think of and that's why you get the frustration with me is when I do stuff like I want to do a hurricane or I want to put my spear through the bars on this castle and trap him in there. And we're like, no. It's you're right. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying that's where you'll see me get like so kind of caged up because that's where the want to have that OC Neo trad is like. But I'm the player. I want to do this, and it's really fun. And but that you can't let it run all the way off. And we have really good discussions to bring it in. We're not toxic about it, and then we don't just go no. And I don't just storm off the camera because it hasn't happened. We have a playful banter about it and kind of get back to the point where everyone's kind of happy in the middle. And that's You can't have a tyrant, but you also can't have a complete just run off. And
it's a really tricky balance because I immediately scoff at this idea of the tyranny of fun because I can see the exact kind of knobber who would sit down and write down the words tyranny of fun.
Exactly.
I can picture them and I don't like them. And yet, as Mikey says that, I'm like, well, actually, the limitations are what make the games fun. And if you could just do what you wanted all the time and just follow the rules, then none of us would be having a fun game. And it's just about where you and your pals, who are all hopefully wanting the same sort of thing out of the game, choose to draw the line. And you can draw it absolutely anywhere. But also, never, ever go onto Reddit and write the words tyranny of fun, you fucking loser.
I can't figure out if the tyranny of fun is the people who are trying to have too much fun and the tyrants, or there's someone trying to stop.
Yes. Yeah, it's the tyranny of fun, and that being more important than the good, honest rules.
Isn't that's really...
You have to count your arrows. You did.
It's surely criticising the people who are trying to be too fun, right? Is that what I'm saying? The tyrants are the...
But yeah, I mean, it's that whole thing, right? If you just ignore the rules, like Milo's saying, the rules make it fun. Like, if you say, I want 1 million hit points instead of 4, that game's just going to be boring.
The game was based around 4. That's where it's so important having that gem. Because I talk again about the Harmontown podcast. They would go up and right, well, I'm gonna get the gem and throw it over the thing and do the thing, and then can I do that? And the gem will go. So like that's what I do. I enjoy pushing out there. I'm going to do it and throwing it out there. And saying I was like wacky and trying to be wacky, and then having it reeled in. I still got to be wacky and say something stupid, and then sometimes it works, and sometimes a melon cart's being exploded as a vital weapon in the key moment of the campaign. So like
exploding melon.
It's like it's it's where if you find a good group that you can explore within limits, that's certainly the right balance. So as long as you're happy to hear it, the opposite would be like, no, stop even saying it. Just say you're going to stab it with a sword, and don't even. That's obviously the other side, which is no fun. So,
which is why I like story games, because I get to then say, if we want it to happen, let's make it risky, or let's make it like limited effect.
Yeah, because it doesn't make any sense.
And then it's kind of like a halfway house, whereas. Other games are more like, well, it's not in the rules, so either we have to make up a rule to say that it's fine, or we have to say that your version of events match my version of events. Yeah, so it's difficult. So we're reaching the end. Shall we see if I guessed correctly?
I don't even know. I know my least favourite. I'm torn on my...
I would have to make a call here, though, wouldn't I?
Got my least favourite locked in.
Yeah, I'm locked in.
I shouldn't have written it on a random page. I found it. All right. Mr. Milo.
Favourite story.
Well, I was going to say let Ollie reveal first, surely.
No, I should say it, and then he has to reveal to see if he was right.
Oh, he's going to show the right. I was going to
Okay. If I just say, if he just pulls it up and I say, you're right.
All right, he's got the permanent fixture.
I'm going favourite is story, but I am going to put a very close second honourable mention to Neo Trad, because actually now that I understand that is a concept, that is the next best thing for me.
Okay.
And
the least.
I think it has.
Let's just ignore LARP for now.
Yeah, it has to be classic. It's just not my idea of fun.
And Mikey?
Well, yeah, I'm gonna say obviously, least favorite is classic. That's obviously pretty slam shut. But then, when it comes to the favorite, I might flip Milo and say Neotrad. I don't think we've even really played Neotrad, but again, if I look at what, like I said, if I could snap my fingers and do it, I would want to do beyond Critical Role, if I've ever watched it, or Harmontown. But then more realistically, what we've played, obviously, the sort of games are what have won out. So almost exactly the same Milo, but maybe just flip Neotrad for like top with story game, just a pip underneath.
Well, I'm going to call that a victory because I got. Here we are. So,
oh shit!
Oh, can you even read that?
Can't read it. It's all blurry. It's too blurry.
So, for Milo, I did Neotrad, and classical as the least favorite. Mm-hmm. And for Mikey, I did story as favorite, classical as least favorite.
It's pretty close cut, I think, in the end. We both kind of said those two actually.
Yeah, you just flipped it and just said Neotrad and him as
I could happily sit on the fence on those two any day. Like
I said Neotrad for you because I think you're a smidge more. Well, actually, probably a lot more. You like the crunchy combat mechanics.
I do. I don't feel like I miss it when I'm playing Blades, but when I look back at having those fun things and weapons and upgrades and talents and things, I do like them a lot. So it's a really fine line, and I think for me it's just like if I can have those experiences somewhat in rotation, then I'm happy.
And I picked story for you, Mikey, because I've never seen you be more alive than when you were playing Saffron Monkshood.
Well, exactly. And and when I think of Neotrad, I don't think of it necessarily because I don't like it because of its crunchy rules. Again, in Harmontown, they're playing 5th edition, so but I think it's the fun of it is that, like I say, they're trying to do wacky things, but having. I mean, again, I can't imagine them playing actual playing a story game with the Neotrad sensibility, not the kind of actual systems, but with that sensibility of the player is because obviously I think there's a slight difference between again the freedom which kind of story games have, but with that kind of power to propel, you still control the space within Blades in the Dark. So I look at Neotrad as more like the style of the player playing. Rather than necessarily, I could say, okay, I think you could have a story game, Neotrad, almost, you could combine those two together, but that probably gets way off the rails because then you've got a free world, and then you've got players being free, and it's chaos. But that's I think you did down close. But my two favorite campaigns are Wang and Blade in the Dark, and I think framing Wang as more of a Neotrad that makes a lot of sense.
And it's funny, despite us being kind of like quite different players in many ways, those are my two exact favourites as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go.
And if me and Ollie often talk about how we'd love to do something like Wang again, or just Wang again, but a new one or whatever. Yeah. And
Wrath and Glory for those who don't not familiar.
Those noobs to the
I believe that's the official acronym. So. We would love to. I think another day we will, and we'll all have to dive into the rules again, and there'll be an awful lot of flicking through rules and deciding what you can and can't do, and discussions about Michael Peichel and his tyranny of fun. Because why can't he put a sniper scope on his knife?
My hand flame.
It doesn't rules. Say I can't. Actually, it definitely does. That's actually been a really interesting chat.
Yeah, it's good.
All those kind of different characters.
Yeah, bit of always feels like academic kind of discussion.
We are. I've always said we're like academics.
Yeah, I think so. And you could always go now and look at all the Reddit posts where they discuss it and see what other people are saying as well.
Well, I've learned a lot of new acronyms, and I've learned a lot of new weird things about was it beavers and dungeons, so that's all exciting.
Yes,
So
yes.
that was an eye-opening thing. And I also discovered what the really cringe 2025 wrap up thing I got. HelloFresh sent me a my 2025 wrap up.
Dear.
That's taking what good timing. One of the kids is waking up, the baby's waking up, so she knows. Fantastic timing. Yeah, HelloFresh has sent a year in wrap. That's taking it too far.
Of all the things to have a wrapped on.
Yeah. You added even more, didn't I? With 6 add-ons ordered.
Oh
yes.
I just
music. Oh yeah.
You couldn't get enough of a family favorite cheddar cheeseburger. I didn't choose that. It just popped up most in the offers per week. Ridiculous. Well, good. No, great timing. The baby's week.
Yeah,
So
good.
I need to dash, but perfect timing.
Well, next week we're back to our usual programming.
Yes.
But, yes, it's been very fun. And if you out there want to learn about the 6 cultures of play and find out your favourite, then go ahead. We can't stop you.
Yeah, go play 6 different campaigns. Report back to us.
Yeah, but just don't take it as gospel. Don't take it as gospel. And you can look forward to many more story games on this channel, it sounds like. I was actually saying on a Discord today, on the Alchemy Discord, actually, that I feel like we're fast approaching the time where we will probably just play Forged in the Dark games.
Yeah.
Until
I think so.
Unless something massively changes.
Yeah, or just until the desire to play more Warhammer makes us go and drag everyone else into Wrath and Glory or the other one for a bit.
Yeah.
But or also the thing is, I do think you just need things to refresh the experience as well. Why we've experimented and enjoyed doing other systems, partially just to have a crack at a bunch of stuff on the wish list, is to be like, I do miss that lovely stuff that we used to do in that other game.
Yeah, and there's more chance for me to be a player as well. Actually, maybe if do a bit of trad. Who knows? Still waiting for Michael Pickel's one shot.
One day. All right, a lot of bounce.
All right,
guys, take it easy.
See you later.
It's been lovely. Have fun editing, and catch you later.
Later.